It's gonna be super effeminate too. All these TED people are so shilly. Anyway.
I'm here to recruit men to support gender equality. Wait, what? What do men have to do with gender equality? Gender equality is about women, right? I mean, the word women, the word gender is
No, it's not. It's not about women. It's about equality. It's about equality. That's what gender equality is. It's not about women. But this guy's trying to act like, oh, men don't care about gender equality. Look. Men are the ones that gave women gender equality. If the laws, all the laws that were thought up to create, to make it illegal to discriminate against women and all those things were brought in by men. And it's not because they like us, it's because they want us to have this, they want to increase their workforce, they want to lower their labor costs, they want to control the population more. This is why they do these things.
To do with gender equality. Gender equality is about women, right? I mean, the word women, the word gender is about women. Actually, I'm even here speaking as a middle-class white man. Now, I wasn't always a middle-class white man. It all happened for me about 30 years ago when I was in graduate school. And a bunch of us graduate students got together one day and we said, you know, there's an explosion of writing and thinking in feminist theory, but there's no courses yet. So we did what graduate students typically do in a situation like that. We said, okay, let's have a study group. We'll read a text, we'll talk about it, we'll have a potluck dinner. So every week, 11 women and me got together. We would read some text in feminist theory and have a conversation about it. And during one of our conversations, I witnessed an interaction that changed my life forever. It was a conversation between two women. One of the women was white and one was black. And the white woman said, this is going to sound very anachronistic now, the white woman said, all women face the same oppression as women. All women are similarly situated in patriarchy, and therefore, all women have a kind of intuitive solidarity or sisterhood. And the black woman said, I'm not so sure. Let me ask you a question. So the black woman says to the white woman, when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what do you see? And the white woman said, I see a woman. And the black woman said, you see, that's the problem for me. Because when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, she said, I see a black woman. To me, race is visible. But to you, race is invisible. You don't see it. And then she said something really startling. She said, that's how privilege works. Privilege is invisible to those who have it. It is a luxury, I will say, to the white people sitting in this room, not to have to think about race every split second of our lives. Privilege is invisible to...
So is women's privilege invisible? Like women being the fact that 90% of workplace fatalities are men, that like 10 times as many workplace injuries are men. All right. And women are more likely to get into university. They're more likely to succeed in school. They're more likely to graduate from university. They're more likely to get into medical school. All those things are true, right? But that privilege is invisible. They never talk about it. Even now, this thing is made 9 years ago, right? So 9 years ago, there was 60% women in medical school. There was there was more women than men in university, and nobody cared. There was still the same, all these other different gaps in male and female like treatment in our society, but nobody cared. These guys are still talking about how we need gender equality. But what is gender equality? It's gender equality seems to be, as far as I can tell, female supremacy.
To those who have it. Now remember, I was the only man in this group. So when I witnessed this, I went, oh no. And somebody said, well, what was that reaction? And I said, well, when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I see a human being. I'm kind of the generic person. You know, I'm a middle-class white man. I have no race, no class, no gender. I'm universally generalizable. So I like to think that was the moment I became a middle-class white man. That class and race and gender were not about other people. They were about me. I had to start thinking about them. And it had been privileged that it kept it invisible to me for so long. Now, I wish I could tell you the story ends 30 years ago in that little discussion group. But I was reminded of it quite recently at my university where I teach. I have a colleague, and she and I both teach the sociology of gender course on alternate semesters. So she gives a guest lecture for me when I teach. I give a guest lecture for her when she teaches. So I walk into her class to give a guest lecture, about 300 students in the room. And as I walk in, one of the students looks up and says, "Oh, finally, an objective opinion." All that semester.
They invented it, man. They invented it. And they're the biggest proponents of it. They always have been.
Whenever my colleague, finally an objective opinion.
But it's not as like effective at altering their gender balance in their culture, in Jewish culture. Not so. I mean, there is quite a bit of change nowadays, but it's less than, like, for example, white culture in the West. The gender imbalances and other things that we talked about due to feminism, like there's been less of an effect in the Jewish community for sure.
And as I walk in, one of the students looks up and says, "Oh, finally an objective opinion."
Yeah, this guy's clearly a Jew. There's no doubt about it. I wasn't even going to talk about it, but yeah, he is absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. They push it. They're the ones pushing feminism, multiculturalism, and all the other stupid isms, communism, capitalism.
All that semester, whenever my colleague opened her mouth, what my students saw was a woman. I mean, if you were to say to my students, there is structural inequality based on gender in the United States, they'd say, "Well, of course you'd say that. You're a woman. You're biased." When I say it, they go, "Wow, is that interesting? Is that going to be on the test? How do you spell structural?" Inequality based on gender in the United States, a woman. I mean, if you were to say to my students, there is structural inequality based on gender in the United States, they'd say, "Well, of course you'd say that. You're a woman. You're biased." When I say it, they go, "Wow, is that interesting? Is that going to be on the test? How do you spell structural?"
Look, I don't know. This is what this guy's claiming. His university class people are saying, right? When he says that, that's what they say. Now, I don't know. I've been in a number of university classes. I'm sure I haven't been in as many as him, but I've never seen anything like that. That's ridiculous. They're not gonna just say some stupid statistic and people are like, "Oh, well, you just made that up because you're a woman." No, everybody knows if the guy's in university, if he's a professor, and he's saying to you a statistic, it's like he's professionally required to have good sources for that thing. It's probably a very good source. We can still think critically about it, maybe question it, challenge some of his assumptions. But nobody's going to say, "Oh, you're just biased because you're a woman." What? Nobody would say that, Now we might get into a deeper discussion and get to it, but it's not like, I don't know. No way it's like this.
Inequality based on gender in the United States. They'd say, "Well, of course you'd say that. You're a woman. You're biased." When I say it, they go, "Wow, is that?"
Yeah. They pushed in the Weimar Republic too. Yeah, that's why a lot of the Brook burnings and stuff happened.
That interesting. Is that going to be on the test? How do you spell structural? So I hope you all can see this is
How do you spell structural? University kids in America saying, "How do you spell structural?" That did not happen, right? That did not happen. But he's trying to create a narrative where it's like, oh, there's this huge problem of gender inequality. It's structural, right? Even though it's 2009, even though there's more women in university than men, right? We still have this huge problem of gender inequality, and it's structural. That is, it's baked into the system, and we got to fix the system and all this stuff. That's what they mean by structural. And then he's trying to tell you that, oh, his students are like, "What is structural? Well, how do you spell that?" What?
So I hope you all can see this is what objectivity looks like. Disembodied Western rationality. And that, by the way, is why I think
I'll pull it out soon.
men so often be.
Lisa?
This is what objectivity looks like. Disembodied Western rationality. And that, by the way, is why I think men so often wear ties. Because if you are going to embody disembodied Western rationality, you need a signifier. And what could be a better signifier of disembodied Western rationality than a garment that at one end is a noose and the other end points to the genitals?
Wow, this audience, this whole atmosphere and everything, it's just a bunch of like, this is what they'll do. This is the thing. The other thing about this, right? Like, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to say this not about women, it's about feminism, right? But these people, they get together, they all support this feminist idea that there's somehow this major problem of gender inequality, even though women overrepresent men in university. That's not a problem. But somehow the fact that there's more surgeons, even though there's more women in medical school and more women graduate from medical school than men, the real problem here is that there's more male surgeons than women. We got to fix that. We don't have to worry. Don't worry about the fact that there's 60% women in medical school. That's not a problem. Don't worry about that. Just shut up. But when it comes to this thing about there's more male surgeons, how could there be more male surgeons? We have to fix this. We have to change this. It's gender inequality. And what they do is they get together in these kind of things and they just kind of clap each other on the back and they don't challenge their assumptions. They don't challenge any of the assumptions, right? Nobody in this audience is going to say, hey, wait a minute, what about the fact that there's 90% of workplace fatalities are men? What do you have to say about that gender inequality, man? You know, no one's going to say that. Nobody there. They're just going to clap, 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 laugh at his stupid jokes. It's just like they just feed into their own ideology. They're just like it's this bubble, you know.
That is mind-body dualism right there. So making gender visible to men is the first step to engaging men to support gender equality. Now, when men first hear about gender equality, when they first start thinking about it, they often say,
see how he's still trying to say that there's something. So gender inequality exists, but it's invisible to men. It's invisible to men, right? Even though women have been our feminists anyway, have been screaming about it since the 70s, right? And even though there's laws in place to make sure that women are not discriminated against, it's illegal to hire, to like discriminate against women in hiring, right? And even though there's more women than men in the workplace, there's more women than men in university and even in medical school and most of the like grad school and everything. There's more women than men in all these areas, right? Still, there's some problem of gender inequality that's invisible to men because of male privilege, right? And once again, the problem of other kind of gender gaps, right? As they're saying, privilege makes it invisible to you, right? So it's invisible to these people that 90% of workplace fatalities are men. It's invisible to them that most of the people in medical school are women, and men are falling behind. They don't care. They just do not care. They will continue to believe that they are the oppressed. Inequality is against them. They will continue to believe this until the whole society is just flipped over. But there's more and more people are coming out of this craziness, right? But these type of people, these type of highly educated liberal people who kind of dominate these big cities and stuff, right? These are the ones who make the decisions. These are the ones who get the education, make and become like, you know, power players and people with influence. These are the ones, right?
I think many men think, well, that's right, that's fair, that's just, that's the ethical imperative, but not all men. Some men think the lightning bolt goes off and they go, oh my God, yes, gender equality, and they will immediately begin to mansplain to you your oppression. They see supporting gender equality something akin to the cavalry, like, thanks very much for bringing this to our attention, ladies, we'll take it from here. This results in a syndrome that I like to call premature self-congratulation.
See, they're just like, oh, ha, 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 and they just laugh at all his dumb jokes. Nobody's ever going to say, hey, wait a minute. Is there really still a problem of gender inequality? Is that even a problem anymore? What are you talking about? You've been fighting over this for 50 years or whatever, right? And you still have a problem with gender inequality, even though, once again, you're more represented in higher education. You're more represented in all these different workplaces and stuff. Like the idea that women are like discriminated against in most workplaces, it's just not true. I'm sorry. They dominate most workplaces, and they're the ones that make all the rules. You can't, if you speak against feminism in almost any like major corporation or any government type of job, you're finished. You cannot do that. You can't even question it. If you question the Barbie movie, you go to one of these people's workplaces and just say, "Oh, you know what? I didn't like the Barbie movie. I thought I was misandrist." They'll just freak on you.
There's another group, though, that actively resists gender equality, that sees gender equality as something that is detrimental to men. I was on a TV talk show.
Now, here's the thing. Glory to him. Glory to him brings up a very good point, and I want to talk about this. There is this sort of awakening to the woke nonsense, right? And what that's going to do, it's not. People think, oh, that means that we're going to go back to the times when it was more fair between the genders, but no, it's not. It's not. What's going to happen is the woke nonsense is going to be pulled back. So some transgender stuff that's just a little too extreme, like they're no longer going to be able to give puberty blockers to little kids without telling their parents and stuff like that. Like those extreme things, they'll kind of pull those back. But you got to think, like before Obama, people like the idea of transgenders and all that stuff, like the idea that we have to give a bathroom for transgenders or we need transgenders to be swimming in the Olympics and stuff. That was all mental. No one would ever even think of that. Now it's like it's normal, right? And so you might have a little bit of pushback, like a little bit of some of the extreme things, like, okay, yeah, maybe we don't need to have men swimming against women in competitive athletics. Maybe that's a little bit too much. But they're not gonna like pull it back to the point where we were before. It's never gonna happen. They're just gonna slowly. There's always like 2 steps to the left and 1 step to the right. That's what they always do. They go 2 steps to the left, and the people are like, "Wait a minute, this is crazy. What? You guys want to give puberty blockers to my kid?" Then they take 1 step to the right. Okay, we're not going to give any more puberty blockers to kids, guys. And then as soon as the people go, okay, we're back on track. All right, things are all right again. Then they go back to the left. They start moving it back over to the left. And people are going to freak out. Then it's going to come 1 step back. So sad, all the woman wrong with no self-respect, laughing at this crazy speech. Look, he's mental health. I know. This guy needs help.
Opposite 4 white men. This is the beginning of my men. I was on a TV talk show opposite 4 white men. This is the beginning of the book I wrote, Angry White Men. These were 4 angry white men who believed that they, white men in America, were the victims of reverse discrimination in the workplace. And they all told stories about how they were qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions. They didn't get them. They were really angry. And the reason I'm telling you this is I want you to hear the title of this particular show. It was a quote from one of the men. And the quote was, "A black woman stole my job." And they all told their story.
No, so let me just think about this now, right? For these people, that's laughable. That's a joke to them, okay? That's laughable to them, all right? And to this guy, it's like the very idea that these 4 men he knows, 4 white men, they made this type of claim that they were discriminated against. And for these people, it's a joke. It first of all, it cannot be possible. It's impossible in their minds, right? And for them, it's like it's laughable. They laugh at it. But if you're one of those men, right? You worked hard. You worked the 60-hour weeks. You got the advanced degree. You were working at this company for so many years, and then it was you and this lady up for a job. And you're better qualified than her. You worked harder. You put in more hours. You got more experience, whatever else. For a fact that you're more qualified for this job than her. And for a fact that they gave her the job because she's black and she's a woman. All right. Now, I'm not saying that always happens or whatever, but that does happen. And maybe those 4 guys, they're just telling the truth of what happened to them. And so that's not good. That's 4 people who got discriminated against, okay? The fact that they're white men doesn't change the fact. We're supposed to be against discrimination. That's what we're supposed to be against here. It's discrimination no matter what race or gender you are, right? But for these people, it's a joke if they say that. If white men say that they were discriminated against, it's a joke. It's not a joke for those men, I mean, assuming they're telling the truth, which I guarantee there are people like this. There are many, many people like this. right? People who've just been denied opportunities because they're too white, they're too male, they're too heterosexual, and other stupid reasons like that.
Stories qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't particular show. It was a quote from one of the men. And the quote was, "A black woman stole my job." And they all told their stories, qualified for jobs, qualified for promotions, didn't get it, really angry. And then it was my turn to speak. And I said, I have just one question for you guys. And it's about the title of the show. A black woman stole my job. Actually, it's about one word in the title. I want to know about the word my. Where did you get the idea it was your job? Why isn't the title of the show A Black Woman Got the Job or A Black Woman Got a Job? Because without confronting men's sense of entitlement, I don't think we'll ever understand why so many men resist gender equality.
So that's what we need to fix here, guys. The fact that this guy thought it was his job, when it was really the job. The fact that he put the wrong pronoun in there, right? Or he put the pronoun of my, or is that even a pronoun? I don't know, but he put the word my instead of the word the, and therefore that's his problem. It's all his fault. It's all his fault, you know. And so this guy's not even going to explore whether these guys were actually discriminated against. That doesn't even matter. It's just like he's not even going to even ask the question. That doesn't even. None of these people care. They don't even think it's even a possibility. They're just going to ignore that. They're just going to go straight to the idea that this guy said my job instead of the job. Therefore, clap, clap, clap like a bunch of trained seals. And let's, like, you know, girl power, girl boss go. And that's all that is. That's all that is, man. So ridiculous.
I don't think we'll ever understand why so many men resist gender equality. Look, we think this is a level playing field. So any policy that tilts it even a little bit, we think, oh my God, water's rushing uphill. It's reverse discrimination against us.
No. We're not trying to talk about that. I mean, look, listen to what he's saying to these four men, right? And we don't know anything about them, right? They're just brought up as an example of something that's ridiculous and that it should just be ignored and mocked. That's what and they're about to mock it now, right? They're laughing at it. He's gonna just make joke after joke about it. Four human beings who, according to them, they were discriminated against. They worked hard for something, and it was like the fair thing would have been for them to get it, but somebody else got it because of unfair rules, and that's a joke to them. But if that happened to one of them, that's a major problem, discrimination, etc., right? And the fact is, a lot of times that's not even what's happening to them, but they're just going to say that. They're just going to say, well, you know, I got discriminated against because I'm a woman, I'm black, or whatever. Meanwhile, they have more advantages to get the job in the workplace a lot of the time. And people will say, oh, Mike, that's crazy. But you know what? Maybe we should try to get some stats on that. Let me try to find it.
So let me be very clear. White men in Europe and the United States are the beneficiaries of the single greatest affirmative action program in the history of the world. It is called the history of the world.
It's like, okay, so all right, let's say that's true. Let's say that white men they've got every advantage throughout human history or whatever, or even the past couple hundred years or whatever you want to say, right? Let's say that's true. Is that still true right now? Right now, when we have more women than men in university, when we have more women than men in like every field in medical school, is this still the case? Is that still the case? I don't think it is, right? But they don't care. They do not care, right? They're just gonna laugh. It's like, and this is what bothers me too. Like, I swear, these people don't think about these things logically, man. It's like, and this is the thing, like, people are gonna say I'm being sexist for saying this, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that women are just not as logical as men. And so if you got all the women making all these decisions, they're not making it based on logic, they're making it based on their feelings. Right now, they don't care about the logic of the fact that there's 4 human beings who got discriminated against. They do not care. It's a joke to them, okay? Because it's funny, because they have it in their mind that they've been oppressed, and women are always oppressed. No matter what happens, they're oppressed. Even if there's more women in medical school, even if there's more women in university and all this stuff. You can't stand it, eh? Sorry. But anyway, my point is just that I don't know. I'm just ranting now. But my point is just that look, man, this idea that women are oppressed, it's not true. These women in that audience, they're not oppressed. Okay, they are part of an elite in a way. They're not the elite, but they're part of like upper class of our society. Okay, and they are upper middle, you might say, or something like that, right? They're not like us, right? Or I don't even know who most of my audience is, but most of my audience is like young men, and they're definitely not. Young men are not like these women. These women in the audience there, they're very privileged. They are. Even the black women or whatever, they're very privileged. They have good jobs, they have good, probably like a lot of them are professors, or they work in universities or whatever. That's why these TEDx things are always full of that stuff,
World. So now I've established some of the obstacles to engaging men, but why should we support gender equality? Of course, it's fair, it's right, and it's just. But more,
who doesn't, let me just, this is like 9 years ago. So in the year 2013 or 2015 or whatever, right? Which human beings in the West did not support gender inequality or gender equality? I mean, are you gonna go around to a bunch of men and ask them if they support gender equality? And what are they going to say? Every single one's going to say yes. Or there might be some that say no, but almost all of them will say yes. And that was the case even 50 years ago when when feminism became this thing, and they started making all the new laws about it. Most men were supporting it. They were like, yeah, well, we don't want to oppress women. I didn't know women were oppressed. And they were like, oh, like it's against our nature as men to want to oppress women. We want to protect women. We want to make sure they're safe. That's our instinct all the time. So when women start telling us, or feminists or whatever start telling us that women are oppressed, we're like, what? We got to fix it. We got to fix it. So let's do gender equality. So immediately, all the men were on it. Most men support gender equality. If you frame it like that, if you just say, should we have equality between men and women? And then they'll say, yeah, of course, Oh, you want to see the Jackie Hill? All right. Let me just finish this. Let me just hear a little bit more out of this guy. I know it's boring. I know you hate this guy, but a little bit more, right?
More than that, gender equality is also in our interest as men. If you listen to what men say about what they want in their lives, gender equality is actually a way for us to get the lives we want to live.
So this is the thing. So we talked about the gender equality. There's equality of opportunity and there's equality of outcome, right? So what kind of gender equality are you talking about? I can guarantee these people, they want equality of outcome. They already have gender equality in terms of opportunity. In fact, women have more opportunity now. Okay, they're more successful in elementary school and or like school, and they're more likely to get into university. They're more likely to get advanced degrees. They're more likely to get these middle management jobs. They have more opportunity than men now. So so equal opportunity is not even on the board anymore because they don't care. They'll never say, oh, we have more opportunity than men now. We better switch. We better change up. They don't care. They're just going to keep going. And so now they have more opportunity than men. Now they want equal outcomes. But as I said, not equal outcomes in all fields, only in the fields with high levels of privilege, high salaries, low danger, and low levels of physical labor. They want equality in those fields. And once again, when they have greater than equality, when they have like even more representation, they don't say anything. So when there's much more women in some area, like let's say human resources, in human resources, there's much more women. Nobody says, hey, we need to have more men in human resources. Nobody cares. But when they see, oh, there's more men that are surgeons, we need to get more women in there. Even though there's more women in every other field of medicine, at least graduating, right? And then that's not a problem. They don't care about that. But the fact that there's more men that are surgeons, that we have to fix,